This isn't normal. This hasn't been going on for a very long time. This is fairly new. I actually live in a little community called Clatsop Pines, which is kind of on the elk superhighway. So we have elk in our backyard most days of the year.
Certainly the numbers have increased in the last, probably 10 to 15 years.
In the neighborhood here, actually, the nickname for this house is the feeding lot because they come into the property. The neighbor had potted flowers on their back patio. Bad idea if you want to keep your pots nice. And this one elk was in there grabbing the flowers and flinging the pots all around. And so the lady came home to all these smashed pots and stuff, which I know it made her really upset, but for me, it's kind of funny.
Elk in and of themselves are not a problem. They become a problem because we're involved in the discussion, humans.
An adult elk can be anywhere between 500 and 1,000 pounds. If they become aggressive, that can pose a public safety threat.
Sometimes the cows will get aggressive if they have a calf in an area and people get too close. And we had a cow choose this tall grassy field right here behind me as the place to have her calf. And the day she dropped that calf, she got real aggressive and defensive of it and was charging a bunch of people. And the decision was made that it would be best for her and the public if we were to tranquilize and move that animal to another location.
To an elk, they don't distinguish between a gray wolf or a coyote or a domestic dog.
I was working on my car in front of my house here, and down the 7th Avenue here came a group of elk, and I took a photo of one of them, and as I was doing so, I heard my dog yelp, Katie. Katie was on a lead here in the yard. I was like, hey, you're fine. They're not doing anything to you. Just settle down. And I went back to working on my car. A minute or two goes by and this pickup comes barreling down 7th Avenue towards the house. He was laying on the horn and he jumps out of his truck and he says, those elk are killing that dog. And I was, what? And so I run around the corner and one of the elk was rearing up and just coming back down and slamming down into her. I came running over and clapping my hands and waving and yelling, got the elk to back off, and Katie was just all curled up in a ball. And I reached down to pick her up. I took Katie inside thinking that everything was going to be okay, but she must have had internal injuries to her because she died the next day. So, and that's what happened to our dog.
The Oregon Solutions Project is focused on trying to find common ground with a variety of different stakeholders.
This is a very unique problem because there's so many different sides. It's extremely complicated. The solutions team has not come with any solutions at the moment. We're not there yet. It's going to be a combination of all things. It's going to be management of the herd by Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. That's going to be key. It's going to be education, teaching people about, what's going on. Why are the elk doing what they're doing? Hopefully there can be some changes to the hunting regulations so that maybe they'd be able to hunt a little bit more in the outlying areas around Gearhart so that we could reduce the size of the herd a little bit. Or maybe we could move part of the herd up into the hills where they're more needed. And then people can learn what to plant and what not to plant in the area. It's going to take all of that.
What this process really is going to be about is, I hope, a discussion about how we coexist with one another and what that looks like. And we need to change our behaviors too. And I think that's actually perhaps the hardest thing to do.
This was some of the most raw and incredible nature in the continent until we started developing it. So I think we need to have a more respectful attitude as far as we've taken over their space. And I think if you're going to live here, especially, and you're new to the region and interacting with elk, it's worth the time to know elk habitats and their behavior.
The top advice that I would give, keep your distance. Don't get close to them. The second thing I would recommend is not going anywhere near them with dogs.
Well, I would say first and foremost, always be aware of your surroundings, and definitely no feeding. Feeding almost never ends well with wildlife.
These are wild animals, and they're potentially dangerous. Stay away from them. They are beautiful, but admire them from a distance. We understand what they were doing. What they were trying to do was protect their family. No different than if we were out in the woods and we saw some kind of predator that was a threat to our family. It is a terrible thing that happened, but we don't hold any personal grudge against them. They're just trying to live just like anybody else.